Welcome to Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast, where as your host each and every week, I am going to inspire you and empower you to share your message and step into that big vision you see for yourself. I'll be bringing you celebrity interviews, influencer insights, and my personal tips from decades as an on-camera talent, TV host, media expert, and entrepreneur, so you can build a brilliant seven-figure brand. Because when you're inspired, you inspire others. So let's go. Oh, hello, my friend. Today, I am bringing you entrepreneur royalty. We actually call Eleanor Beaton the Queen. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how she got that title and what that really means, and how to really step in to creating a gem of a business that provides 30% more revenue, 30% more profit, and 30% more freedom and space for you to do the things that matter most. I could have talked to Eleanor for hours. We talked so much about life and business strategy, how she grew her business to seven figures in less than 3 years. She shares with you the practical strategies that she implemented to really grow and scale her business. And we also talked about what entrepreneurial confidence really means and how is that different than everyday confidence. Eleanor is the founder of Safe Media. She has helped multiple women entrepreneurs scale their service-based businesses past the seven-figure mark with powerful messaging, positioning, and sales funnels. Her podcast, Power, Presence, and Position, is one of the top-rated podcasts for women entrepreneurs on iTunes. She is the former chair of the Visiting Women's Executive Exchange Program at Yale School of Management and was recognized in 2020 with the Judge Elliott Awards for Distinguished Alumni from the Universities of King College for her work in advancing women's leadership globally. She's a thought leader. She's a little extra, and we love her so much. Get ready for a powerful, impactful, and very fun interview with my friend, the Queen, Eleanor Beaton. Eleanor, it is so wonderful to have you with me today. I've been looking forward to this time with you.
Keri, any time that I get to spend with you is like the highlight of the week. Let's be real.
You're so sweet. So here's the funny thing, Eleanor. In our community, and probably anyone who knows you, refers to you as the Queen. And I just thought we'd start off with something fun. Like, was that something that you crowned yourself? Because I'm constantly telling people you got to crown yourself the expert, right? So did you be like, I'm going to crown myself Queen Eleanor? Or you have such really this amazing presence about you, very dignitary. And that really, we'll talk about your bio later. So much of who you are, was that given to you? Tell us about the Queen status.
Yes. So yeah.
Regal. That was my word I was looking for. Regal.
Regal. I would so love to have come up with that, but I didn't. And I think so. Things that people need to know. I'm 6 feet tall. I definitely have a presence and a gravitas. I've always had it. I was a 10-year-old older lady.
An old soul.
An old soul. So I've always had that. And that's, I think, why people call me that. But interesting factoid. So my grandmother was Danish. And in Denmark, there is a very famous queen called Eleanor Christina. And that's my name, Eleanor Christina. And so I think my dad, may have named me after that. On my mom's side, I am descended from basically Fijian royalty. So there's some of that in there, there's some of that in there.
So not by chance, by any means. This was all divine. It is Queen Eleanor. Was that ever difficult for you growing up? Because you did have that gravitas and you definitely take space, but in a really powerful way. I think more women need to take up space. Was that ever a challenge for you?
That's so interesting. Yes, it absolutely was. It was a challenge in different ways. Like I always felt a little bit like an ugly duckling. And I don't want to overplay that. I definitely know there are people who really feel marginalized and ostracized growing up. So that wasn't my experience, but I did always feel that I was part of a group, but generally a little bit outside it. Getting accepted was a little bit hard. I did stick out, and it took me a while to sort of grow into my presence. And you and I, a big part of what we do is being visible and being out there. And I will say that to this day, as an entrepreneur, it took me a while to truly grasp that even with my gifts and strengths, I am not speaking to everybody. And so
Okay,
still to this
wait
day,
a minute, Eleanor. Can you please say that again?
with my gifts and strengths, I am not speaking to everybody. So with what I have and the makeup that I have, any time that I have tried to appeal to a mass market, it has just never worked. It doesn't fit me. It doesn't suit me. I told you that I was descended from Fijian royalty, and what I'm actually descended from is this family. And so in Fiji, the oldest son is like the advisor, and the second oldest is like the head chief or the king. And so we come from the oldest family. So we're sort of advisors. So I definitely feel that way, that there's a small group of people, of incredible women, self-actualized female innovators in the world. Those are my people. And anytime I try to move to mass market, I feel like I felt as a 20-year-old college student at the college bar with my cute friends who could completely shine in that environment. And I just wanted to talk about literature. And that was not the place, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, Eleanor, one of the things I'm talking so much to people about right now when it comes to growing their business and really becoming visible is exactly that. I think the more we understand that it's not our purpose to speak to everyone, even mass products and consumer goods, like you're not trying to reach everyone. And I think the more we try to reach everyone, the less people we actually impact. And I think I read something that you wrote. We'll talk about emails here in a little bit. Such a great writer. That you actually like niched down further last year. Was it last year?
Yeah. Yes.
And you kind of let go of a very viable, profitable part of your company to do exactly that. And can you share a little bit about that decision?
Yeah, and in fact, I have really continued to niche and specialize over the course of my company. So when I first started my coaching business, I was really looking at women's leadership generally. Then I decided I wanted to specialize even further, leadership for entrepreneurs, for women entrepreneurs. And then last year, I realized that in that space, there's so many things you can do. You can coach people on team. You can coach people on marketing. You can coach people on strategy. I realized, what is it that women entrepreneurs, like in the leadership zone, what is it where my zone of genius truly is? And that really is about helping them step into their power, helping them unleash the power of their voice, of their message, of their mission. And so really continuing to niche down and specialize. You know what it does, honestly, Keri? A queen has to be a queen of something. She's got to have sovereignty. And I think when you really articulate to the world, this is my territory.
Right.
This is what I'm responsible for. This is not what I'm not responsible for. It gives us so much freedom as women.
I think it gives us freedom and it gives us power.
Yeah.
I think it's both. And it's this beautiful duality where you're not trying to be all things to all people and you let go of so much. And I think for so many startups, you're just trying to be what you think everyone else wants you to be. You're like, who do I need to be today? Who do I show up as today? And I think a queen really knows who she is. She is clear with who she's trying to reach and the impact she's trying to make. And because of that, it's power and freedom at the same time. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you know what's so interesting? And I know that one of the things we'll talk about is 2020.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, we will.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But it's so interesting because I think one of the things that I realized in 2020 is when you are forced to focus on the things that matter, like when you can't go out and socialize and you can't do this, you can't distract yourself. What are the things that are truly, truly important to you? Mm-hmm. And that was such a powerful thing for me. And one of the things that I realized is that still, even though I had done my work, I have these personal development practices, I'd worked with great teachers and spiritual mentors, et cetera, I was continuing to grow unwittingly from a place of scarcity. And when you're growing from a place of scarcity where there's not enough, that's what often drives the sense that you need to be all things to all people, and that really having this jewel of an offering is enough. It's not enough when you're growing from that place. So that was one of the big transitions that continues to really mold the business that I continue to create.
Yeah. Ah, that is such a gem. So good. I remember way back in 2020,
Oh, right,
I was going out for a walk because that's the only thing I can really do to like give myself space, which has been really important to me with the kids at home. And, I had a baby this last year and Michael's at home, as you know, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I was out for a walk and I had this thought of what would happen if I got sick? What would happen if I got hit by a car? What would happen? And it got me thinking, Eleanor, kind of more about that too. It's how am I structuring my business? How am I building my team? I think when you get to 7 figures, you start thinking just a little bit differently in the form of leadership and what that looks like and developing and cultivating the team to drive it forward. It sounds like you had a thought like that as well and decided to do a complete rebrand in 2020.
Yeah, I did because none of us had enough to do.
Right. Of course.
I was bored, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. In 2020, I launched the makeup line, the podcast. I'm like, come on, let's just we added team. I'm like, oh my gosh, the divine collapse. No, it was all good. We're still moving forward, but it was crazy.
Oh my gosh, so crazy.
Yeah.
And so painful for so many people and so revelatory.
Yeah.
So what had happened was this. It was such a powerful year. And up to that point, my growth had really been driven through more, by doing more, by creating more, by selling more, by bringing more people in. And that worked, and that was really effective. And then I started to go through this period of discernment where I really started to look at the leaders that I most admired and what their businesses looked like, at the body of work that I was developing. And for women like us who are teachers and mentors, and so our business is sort of two things. On the one hand, it's the business itself. And on the other hand, it's the body of work that we develop through that business.
Right.
And for both my body of work and also for my business, I decided that the path forward for me was one of refinement, that it would actually be about applying greater focus to accomplish greater growth. So it wasn't about going wide. It was about going really deep.
Yes.
I really saw that and it scared me. It was so scary. So at first it was really exciting. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And so a number of like strategic things I did, which I'll share with you in a moment. But before it was like super exciting to think about it. And then I started to get really scared because I have never grown in that way. It has always been about doing more, being extra, hustling, working super, super hard. And so I had to kind of
be an extra. How much more extra can we be, people?
Right. I know.
Let's be more extra. Yeah.
I know, right? Just more extra.
Just more.
Super major. Victoria from Spice Girls, she used to have this thing where she would something like, that is extra major. That was super extra major.
Extra major.
Extra major. So I made that shift and I decided that made a lot of sense for me. And so what I was going to do was I was going to refine my positioning even more. I was going to refine my offerings even more. I was going to ensure that everything was created. So I was going to really deepen my body of work and my expertise in my area of women's entrepreneurship. I was going to reduce the offerings and create them with excellence. I was going to remake my systems. I remade my team. Some of that was a process of growth and just really seeing where I had people I didn't need, where I was trying to get people to create systems that only I could create because only I knew what I needed them to do. Right. So we can talk about that. And I also saw that my business was separate a little bit from my body of work. And that I was doing it all truly through the Eleanor Beaton brand. But if I wanted to have the impact, if I really wanted my company to be able to stand on its own 2 feet, to bring in excellent leaders and managers and coaches and creators, I wanted to rebrand that company so it was its own entity. So in 2020, we rebranded our company to be Safi Media. And so Safi stands for Self-Actualized Female Innovator. So
love that so much.
Yep. We are educated, whether formally or in the School of Hard Knocks. We are affluent. We work hard. We control a ton of purchasing power. We are the conscience very often of our countries, and we have tremendous power. And I know if we want to create, so for me, it's about creating a new model of economic growth. And I think about it as, a lot of women, what we're really looking to create are what I would call jewel businesses. Mm-hmm. So these are businesses that follow a 30-30-30 concept. So they grow at a minimum of 30% per year or more. They have a profit margin of at least 30% or more. And the founders of those companies have a minimum of 30% of their time open, free, unscheduled to plan, create. That's a jewel business.
That is a jewel. Got to put that one in the crown. Yep.
Right.
I'm with you. Yeah. Well, I think it's what we all strive for, continued growth, continued profitability, and back to that freedom, that space. And it's just like we said, it's so easy just to get into doing more and be an extra. And I love that you said you had to quit going out and really go deeper within your own brand and your own vision and what you were creating. And I remember, Eleanor, when I was starting Inspired Living back in 2011, the toughest decision I had. And I remember talking to our friend Allie about this, Allie Brown. And I was like, do I name it Keri Murphy or do I name it Inspired Living? And we landed on Inspired Living by Keri Murphy. And we're going through a very similar rebrand like you. So my name is even more out of it. And it really can grow into something so much bigger than me. And it's interesting that this last year, 2020, brought that realization to you and to me. And I'm wondering how many other women who had kind of built personal brands. We're all personal brands, by the way. I don't care if you're selling toothpaste, but is the brand bigger than you? And what happens? What precedes you? What happens after you?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's also this idea, if there was anything that I learned this year, it was really around sort of August, September. I noticed that many of the women that I'm working with are starting to report feeling despondent, overwhelmed, stressed. And I didn't understand it because at that point, little did we know, but at that point, we were through the worst of it.
Isn't it sad that we have to laugh at that? Oh my goodness. Yes.
Hello. We thought we were through the worst of it.
Yes.
And what scientists have known for years is that we all have this surge capacity. So we have enough resources to keep going, to keep gunning it. And then we run out of that. And that's where fatigue sets in, where depression sets in, where anxiety sets in. And that's what we saw in the research, that women in particular were feeling disproportionately impacted by that. And what that taught me is that I don't care how tough and resilient you are, no one gets through this alone. No one. And I think there's just this awareness as women that we have our personal brands, but for so many of us, in order to fulfill our mission, we can't do it alone.
It's impossible, actually. And I want to go back because if someone's listening and they're just starting out and they're like, but wait, my brand is my name. For many of us, it starts out that way. And Eleanor, you wouldn't be able to grow into Softme Media if you didn't already build out the Eleanor Beaton brand. So I think timing is everything, and to give yourself permission to just follow what you feel is right at that moment. Because I'm sure there's someone going, oh crap.
Oh no.
I just named my business my name. And come on, we know there's a lot of businesses out there that are personal names. So I think you have to just go with your instinct there and follow that.
And like my grandpa always used to tell me, Eleanor, remember, it's a woman's prerogative to change her mind.
That is right.
Right? We can just change our minds.
A little more extra. Yep. Yeah. So I love this conversation so much. Let's talk about confidence. I teach people how to be confident on camera. You teach something very similar in a way with showing up and messaging and presence. And we both talk about how important it is to niche down and really get known for something in this crowded marketplace that is only going to get more congested. But let's talk about entrepreneurial confidence and the difference. How is that any different than just regular everyday confidence?
I love this question. And I started to notice this. So this is so interesting. And I know that there's so much overlap between the women that we work with. And so often we talking to women, and I'm like, you need to know the work of Keri Murphy and you need to go check her out because there's so much interconnectedness there. So a lot of the women entrepreneurs that I work with, they start out with a very strong technical competence or technical excellence in some area. And it could be their former CFOs. It could be that they are life coaches, that they are naturopathic doctors, whatever. So there is a true and a deep-rooted confidence that they already have in these very specific areas. Some people have tremendous confidence just with their sort of public speaking, let's say. What I started to notice is as I was working with women entrepreneurs, I would find that there were accomplished, successful, smart, courageous women who were doubting not their technical ability, but their instinct and their know-how about growing their own company. Like you just said, look, if you named your company after yourself, trust your instinct, go with that.
Yes.
And what I was seeing was this ongoing systematic separation that women entrepreneurs had for their ability to run their company. So I started going through the research, and it's so interesting. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is one of the world's biggest studies and longest lasting studies of entrepreneurs, found it was doing research on entrepreneurs in Europe. And what it found is that in Germany and France, for example, 80% of those women entrepreneurs said a lack of confidence in their business skills and their ability to run their business was holding them back from growing and was causing them to censor themselves. Now, that's where, for people who talk about messaging, I was like, what? More research from New Zealand found that women entrepreneurs are less confident in our ability to lead our businesses than men are very often. And that doesn't necessarily change even after we've been in business for several years.
You know what, Eleanor, that actually doesn't surprise me. And yet it's so disheartening, disturbing. Like we got to change that because we are powerful. And because like the technician, right? Going back to like the E-Myth and Michael Gerber, and many of us start a business out of frustration. We see a different way, a different possibility. We're really, really good at what we do. But when it comes to running the business, we haven't built that CEO muscle. How did you go about doing that? And how do you teach other women to do that?
Oh, yeah. So for me, it came back to a couple of things. So one is that practice. So it's about really having what I would call radical conviction. So a deep commitment and conviction to what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why it matters so much for us, for our families, and for the people that we're looking to have an impact with. So that is huge, first and foremost, that real sort of commitment. And then that ability to, all of us are going to go through periods of rapid learning as entrepreneurs.
Right.
But what needs to happen after that is that we get to a place where we truly accept, I'm enough. I'm totally enough. What I have to offer is totally enough, like this place of sufficiency. And the reason that that is so important is because that's when you actually start to be able to hear yourself, to trust your instinct. That's when you're totally able to stop copying, doing things that you think work, that you see other people doing, and bringing your original strategy, your original thinking, your original voice, and being able to do that with confidence and presence all the time.
Yeah.
That's the result of that. And that's what I did.
I mean, I think that's so important that you give yourself the grace and the I am enough. But I also think, Eleanor, and we know this because we invest so much in ourselves too, that you do have to develop and cultivate that leader in you, that queen in you, really understand best business practices. I mean, I was listening to something today about culture and what they did to really unite team. And I'm like, oh my God, I would have never thought of that. I'm a bad boss. I need to start integrating some of this into my business. But it's, I'm really honestly curious, where do you go? Because you're such an extraordinary leader to continue to learn how to lead, or do you just trust yourself that you know?
Yeah. So both. So this is so interesting. So I always look at, for me, it's always important to have women leaders who ground me. So having some form of woman mentor or coach has been really, really important to me. There's a power in that relationship when you have the right mentor or coach. And for me, I have typically worked with women. That's really important. Having a network of sort of like a mastermind, a network of colleagues has been really important because as women, we grow and take chances and take risks in community. So those two things have been important. But what I also really do, I know that most true innovation happens when you look outside your industry. So I'll give you an example. I hired a marketing agency to just kind of check some stuff out. I was like, what's new? What's different? Yeah. And so I was very specific about hiring a marketing agency that works with B2B software as a service companies. That's it. Right. I didn't want anything from my industry. I wanted to know what's happening outside, what's new, what's fresh, what can I learn here? So I try to look out of my industry.
I do as well. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I get so tired of learning from the same people in the same space, doing the same thing. I mean, it's actually why a quick drop for Brilliant, like why I created Brilliant and how to bring different women from different industries together, teaching what they've done. Yeah.
Nobody does that. And it's so powerful. Like your events, you really do that. And what it does is it gets your people away from that group think.
Exactly. And the cookie cutter marketing model and the funnel building. And, there are some things that work and that's great. But I also think true innovation comes from learning from outside of your business and your scope and your understanding. So I love that.
And also like womaning up and realizing that there's no business mommy here. Like nobody is going to give you a foolproof. I don't care what they say. They will be able to provide best practices. They will be able to provide tools that you can use that will save you a ton of time, but they will never be able to save you from the challenges of growing a business. I mean, how much have we invested? A lot. Okay. Like a lot of money, right? Yep. And how many mistakes have we made?
Oh, I don't know. None. No, I'm just kidding. Just a joke. I mean, every day there's something I feel like I'm going back on and being like, what?
But how many regrets?
I don't have any. I don't have any regrets. And I actually want to continue to make mistakes because it's the only way my team and I continue to grow and learn and get stronger and get more powerful in our space is trying new things. That didn't work. And you know what, Eleanor, I feel like especially women, we're so attached to failure. Like attached in a way that like, oh my God, I can't fail at anything. I have to show up perfectly. I have to say things perfectly. If this doesn't work, then I'm not worthy. And I think there's a level of resilience too that any queen has, right? That she's able to navigate and adapt and lead. And we are going to make maybe wrong decisions at certain times, but they will always lead us to the right ones as well. It's like we go through that to get to where you are.
Oh my gosh.
Right, there is no mommy.
There's no mommy. No one's going to save you. Nobody. And it's interesting because I think that a lot of people, they think they cannot make mistakes, that they can do things that will prevent them from failure. But there's like the mini fails where you're like, oh, well, that didn't go the way I planned. And then there's the failures that cause you, how you define yourself, how you see yourself to get its bell rung. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And those are the ones that are so painful, but also those are the ones that I have always experienced such significant growth after.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Man, it's all coming back, coming back. And I look back and I could not be more grateful for all those hardship and those challenges and those failures that brought you to your knees. It really brought me and brought you right to the throne now of where you are with really building out this business. And I think we have to be able to feel the feels. I even think during this last year, being the optimist that I am and just everything's okay and having a baby at 44 and now 45 and running the business and we're growing. I mean, we had the most profitable year we ever had last year. And I just look back and you have to give yourself grace and you have to let yourself feel. And it was over Christmas that I lost it. Like seeing my whole family en masse and trying to celebrate the holidays. I'm so grateful we did. Yeah. But I just want to say for that woman listening right now that it's okay to break down. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. It's okay to bruise the knees. But it's also imperative that you get yourself around people and yourself included to get you back up.
I love how you always really remember to bring it to really anchor it to women who are listening, and what I find one of the most profound pieces of advice I ever got, which has helped me so much, was Eleanor, don't be in a rush to feel better and don't be in a rush to fix it. like sit in that place, experience that pain. I was never able to do that earlier in my life and career. I
It's
just
still a
kind of want
struggle
to,
for me.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just hard. But what I have found is that on the other side of that, like, first of all, the pain is usually harmless. It's just a feeling.
Right.
But what I really find is that by not rushing through it, that's where actually the deepest problem solving starts to come, the deepest opportunity. So you're so right. That sort of compassion is, it's important for us as spiritual beings, but it's also important for us as CEOs, because then we stop trying to fix problems because we want to feel better. And we become more focused on really identifying the things that truly are worthy of our attention to remedy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, such powerful stuff. I'm always like, the light, be the light, be the light. And one of my clients was like, you know what? So much can come from darkness. Sometimes you just have to sit in the darkness.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that perspective, it really hit me. And you're like, you know what? You're right. Sometimes we do have to sit in the darkness because so much is revealed in the darkness as well that you would never see or hear in the light. So it's going deep, Eleanor. It's going deep.
We always do.
Look, you've had a lot of success early on in this business. I mean, you grew to 7 figures relatively quickly.
Yep.
And I'm curious for that woman. I think we talk so much about money. I feel like we hear 7, 8 figures. I swear on Clubhouse right now, every single person is a millionaire or billionaire. I'm like, I thought we were 1% or 2%, but obviously every single person on Clubhouse is a millionaire. I just got to say, I'm like, what is happening? I thought we were an anomaly, but we're just average, Eleanor. We're just average. But my question is, I think wealth is subjective. I think that you don't have to create a multi-million-dollar brand to feel and be wealthy. But I also am hell-bent on helping more women create wealth so we can actually contribute more to the planet and actually see the sustainable change that I know we all want. What did you do? Best practices. When you were starting your business, give me 3 things that you did that you felt were like fundamental to getting you there.
So thing number 1 was, so I had a business that I ran for like 10 years, even before I started this coaching business. I was a consultant. So I did a lot of consulting for celebrities and political leaders and that kind of thing on messaging and crisis communications and all of that. And I was a consultant, which meant that every single contract was different. Like if I stopped working, I stopped getting paid. It was a job. It provided, I'm so grateful, but I couldn't grow past it. So thing number 1 that I did in the coaching business, which grew to 7 figures in 3 years and has continued to grow and be very profitable since then, is that I treated my ideas like assets from the very beginning. And I did that in 2 ways. One was, rather than spending all my time doing Instagram stories and all this kind of stuff, the promotional stuff, which is important and we still do it, I really took the time to develop my intellectual property. Guys, think about Brené Brown, who developed her intellectual property, which became coaching certification program, multiple 6-figure speaking fees, very lucrative business based on her body of work that has a massive impact. It came from developing tools, frameworks, certifications. And then the other side of that was really developing processes so that the business itself is sustainable. So number 1, treating ideas as assets. And to do that, I had to delay gratification. So I couldn't just say, yes, I'll take that contract because it was easy money. I had to stop doing that and start building assets.
That can be a real challenge. If someone has an income stream coming in from somewhere else, but it's not what they really want to be doing, and it's taking them away from what they really want. It's very polarizing. It's very challenging to say, I'm going to cut off the hand that feeds me so I can go do this thing.
Yeah.
But I think at some point, I'm not saying you have to totally cut the hand, but at some point you have to make the decision that to believe in yourself enough to go do the thing. Right. Exactly. And to trust that your ideas are assets. I've never heard that before. And I really, that just totally sits. It makes complete sense. And you think about all the people that are real influencers like Brené Brown, who has this incredible body of work, Glennon Doyle, I love her too. And yes, they're visible. They are absolutely visible, 100%. But they are visible because of their body of work. It's not like I'm going to go out and do an Instagram story just to do an Instagram story. Like I'm doing it because I have something to share. Not that there's a right and a wrong way. I think you have to create visibility to promote the body of work and vice versa.
Yep.
But I really love that concept of
Yeah.
treating your ideas as assets.
Well, because you're so right. And I couldn't agree more. And they both have to go together. Otherwise, you've got a book in a drawer.
A book in a drawer.
You know what I mean? Like that's all
and an Instagram with nothing to offer.
With nothing to offer. You know, they so have to come together. It's so, yeah, exactly. So just taking the time and allowing your work that time to kind of develop and to be consistent and stick with it. I feel like that was one of the hugest things for me. And then building a team was another really big thing and learning how to do that. And then the final thing, honestly, was FaceTime. And I'm not just saying this because it's you, but that ability to be in front of a camera, in front of an audience, in front of a microphone. I think the ability to speak publicly. I love to write, and it's one of my areas, but that ability to connect in 3D, you know what I mean?
There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about how I grew Inspired Living, it was speaking. It was getting on stages, using video. I've used it for as long as I started my business. Even when I thought no one was watching, I just kept sharing. And I think that's the key, is to find something that you're passionate enough to keep sharing when you feel like no one's watching, and realize that people are watching. And it starts with one person. You're not going to become viral overnight unless you have a dog, a puppy, a political.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, we won't go there. But, I think that we have to be clear on what's important to us and the message that we're sharing. And with social media and what we have today, Eleanor, I didn't have that growing up. Like, we have $1 million assets at our fingertips every day with the social platforms and what we're able to produce and create for $0. Like, it blows my mind. Yeah. And yet it also blows my mind how few people are using it effectively. But that's why we're here, right? That's why we're here. Yeah,
exactly.
So tell me, as we wrap this up, Eleanor, there's so many things we could talk about. I mean, we literally could talk for hours. I did do a little tease about the emails, and you just talked about writing. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about your email strategy, because you've been talking so much about online and video, which is incredibly important, but you are actually in my inbox a lot more these days.
Yes.
And I actually read your emails. I laugh at them. I am like fist bumping, girl powering you. I'm intrigued by them. Like, you're quite the witty writer. I like
Thank
it.
You.
But here's what I love even more, because I think we got to a place where people were like, stop emailing people. People don't want your emails. And here you are now emailing people 3 times a week. And so I'm so curious, your strategy there, what clicked that on button? And I know everyone wants to know, Eleanor, how do you have time to write those 3 emails? Right?
Oh
that 30%, 30, 30, right?
30, 30, 30. So this is so interesting. What I did is I sat back and I asked myself, what have I been doing, or what has immediately preceded all of my greatest accomplishments in business, let's say, or really professionally. Mm-hmm. And when I really looked at them, at the heart of those accomplishments was the written word. Mm. And so I started to ask myself, I'll just be straight up and honest, where do I feel best in the world? You know what I mean? Like, I love video.
Queen of all things.
I know. Where am I queen of all things? I love video, but it's not video. I love podcasting, but it's not podcasting. I honestly think that one place where I just feel in my zone, untouchable, not in a competitive space, just in this place of, this is my song.
Don't apologize for it, girl. You claim it. Yes.
Right?
Claim it.
Like, here it is. And it was through the power of the written word. The other thing that's interesting, and
I just love how you say the power of the written word. Like, you would think, I got it from writing. No, the power of the written word.
Word. And here's the other interesting thing. So I know who my audience is, and they are readers. They buy books. They want in depth. They read, I think Fast Company did a survey of CEOs. They read 60 books a year. 60
okay,
books
I'm like, a week.
I know. I'm like, wait. No, that was wrong. That was false.
I have 60 books piled up right here.
Yes, I know, right?
I do.
60 books a year.
Wow.
So
that's a lot,
right? It's a lot. They read, they want in depth. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to meet them where they're at. I am 100% going to be in people's inboxes. And in order to do that, I have to make sure that every single one delivers humor, insight, like it's a smart person talking to a smart person.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad I relate to them so well then.
Yes, exactly. Of course. It's like, wow, she's speaking to me. And here's what's crazy about it. If you can do it. And so I do not outsource any copywriting at all. I do it all because it's my thing that
it's your jam. Yeah.
It's my jam. And so I have an incredible audience. Like our open rates are 35%.
Wow.
That's huge in our industry.
Yeah.
And I do a lot in the emails to make people unsubscribe so that like through the humor that I share or through just being a little bit extra, being a little bit more brazen. And so the people who are not my jam are going to unsubscribe and the people who are picking up what I'm putting down are there. So that's the strategy. It's very effective from a sales perspective, very effective from a conversion perspective, and it's hard to sustain. So what happens is that becomes a competitive moat, right? It's going to be very difficult to sustain that for people because copywriters who are at my level are extremely expensive.
They are expensive. They are.
Right. And so,
It's interesting. It was years ago. I was reading something in Fast Company that was talking about email is just another media channel. You have to look at it as just another media channel. And the more you're in your media channel, right? Even if people don't open the email, the fact that they see your name and the title is going to imprint and they're going to remember you. And so we need to get over. And if a person unsubscribes, then they're not your person. But when you are captivated by someone, when you find someone interesting, you might not read all their emails, but you will not unsubscribe. You will look forward to them. Yep. And you have to remember email is just another media channel. And that stuck to me. Yeah. And I continue to think about that in my own company because I was so fearful. Oh my God, we can't over email the list, right?
Yes.
Heaven forbid. And I think you have really taught me that too this year. Yeah. Like, you know what? It's another channel. So thank you for that, my friend.
Oh, listen, anytime.
Oh, Queen Eleanor, I just adore you. Tell me what inspired living means to you.
Oh, inspired living means that jewel business, 30-30-30. It means cash, influence, and autonomy. Inspired living means knowing that you're enough. And from that place and living from that place, I think you are inspired to grow, not from fear, not from scarcity, but from the joy of creation. That's what inspired living means to me. Also, Tory Burch and super fancy spas.
Right.
Just because, of course.
That's so good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your friendship. And thank you for being that extra that we all need and aspire to. Really, Eleanor, like you're one of those people in my life I just truly admire and respect so much. And I just love that we can play together. It's so much fun. So I know that you're up to amazing things and I really want to support you. And more than anything, if you are listening or watching and you have not tapped into Eleanor's world, you are missing out on so many gems. And I'm going to just keep bringing it back to the crown because the crown has a lot of sparkly gems.
It sure does.
It sure does. So Eleanor, tell us what you're up to and how people can get in your tribe. I know you're putting together a white paper. Tell us about that.
Yes. So we're releasing a white paper called the 2021 State of Female Founders, the Entrepreneurial Confidence Edition. So this is a white paper really taking a look at really exploring like research into women's entrepreneurial confidence, how it affects your ability to market, your ability to grow, your ability to sell. So we'll feature interviews with some incredible thought leaders. It's just a super interesting look. I think so many women entrepreneurs are like, am I normal? Is what I'm experiencing normal? Right. And that's what.
And the answer is no.
The answer is no. Nope. You're a unicorn.
And that's okay. Right.
So people can get it by going to eleanorbeaton.com/join. If you go there, you'll get all the details on when we're dropping it. And you will get to read some of those emails that we were discussing as well.
Going back to the written word. I love it.
Power of the written word.
The power.
That's right. The power.
I'm excited to actually get my hands on that white paper as well. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. We'll put that in the show notes along with every other way you can get in contact with Eleanor. Thank you, my friend, for your time today. Thank you for this delightful and insightful conversation and continue to be the extra That's what I'm leaving with today. We all need to be a little more extra, but we don't always have to be more. Right?
Oh, so good.
Drop it.
So good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eleanor. I will talk to you soon.
Yes,
Look forward
my friend.
to the next time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv/podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.